My name is Michael Klein. I'm professor of music theory, actually of music studies at Temple University, where I've been teaching for 20 long years, very long years. Prior to that, I taught at the University of Texas at Austin. I teach music theory. And for today's family series, what I thought I would do is try to help parents or potential music majors figure out what they need to know to get into music school, to get past that music theory hurdle of music school. Obviously, to get into music school, you have to practice, all that other stuff, but you always have to take a theory test. But before I do that, I want to thank the people at the Philadelphia Virtual Music Festival with a PH like pheasant, PH Philadelphia, for inviting me. Actually, I invited myself, but they said, okay. So someone in there loves theory. These people are amazing. They are not getting paid to do this. They have put together this festival so that all of us will remember that there are live musicians out there who are still practicing, who can't wait to play live in front of you. They are trying to remind us that live music is always the best. You want to see live concerts. You don't want to just listen to things on Spotify. You want to go and see musicians live. And also the great part of what they do and what they're doing, and they're all volunteering to do this, is that many musicians, my wife is one of them, they are gigging musicians, and their livelihoods now are basically gone because of this coronavirus, and they're raising money to help musicians who need the help. So I know they don't expect much out of a theorist. Instead of paying to see me, if we get 1,000 pledges in the next 15 minutes, I promise I'll stop. Isn't that good? I think that's a good way to go, right? So I wanted to thank them for letting me come and give my spiel in my lovely home with my lovely out-of-tune Steinway piano. It's out of tune for a reason. And before I start, one more thing. Today, July 17th, in 1933, my mother was born. She is 87 years old today. So happy birthday, Mom. Without you, I wouldn't be here. And if I weren't here, then it would be blank right now. They'd be like, where's Michael Klein? So thank you, Mom, for everything you've done for the whole family. I'm one of 5 kids, and we all love you. And we'll see you later today for a socially distanced dinner at your apartment. We don't want to get my mom sick. She made it to 87, and this bodes well for me. All right, so to start, there'll be 2 parts here. I'm going to give you some things about, especially if you're a parent or if you're a student who wants to go to music school, what does your son or daughter, or what do you, if you're a music major or want to be a music major, what do you need to know in theory to get through into school? So the first thing is, no matter where you go, you are going to be tested in music theory. Gasp. And the problem with this is that there is enormous inequity in the United States over the education of music, I should say, not music majors. There's enormous inequity. So some schools have no music. Some schools have AP music theory classes. Some schools have theory classes. Some schools, a teacher will point you to a direction. So there's enormous inequity. But the good thing is you can teach yourself how to do this, how to learn what it is you want to learn. And you know what? A good theorist doesn't need notes, but I'm not a good theorist, so I need notes. So I just want to make sure that I've gotten to everything I wanted to get to. All right, so before you enter music school, let's say you've been accepted, you're going to have to take a music theory test. And depending on how you place in this music theory test, you may be asked to start with a fundamentals class. You do not want to be in the fundamentals class. That is going to send you a year behind in music theory. You won't be able to take music theory with your friends. Gasp. Again, that was 2 gasps that I've given you. it just sets you behind. So you definitely don't want to fail this entrance exam or do poorly in it. If you do very well in it, you may be asked to move ahead a semester, and I'll get to that in a second. But the thing is, you want to do well enough that they place you at least in the regular theory class. So what do you need to know? I would say that the most important thing, no matter what they've taught you in school, they may have taught you fundamentals, and they taught you some counterpoint, and they taught you some voice leading and all that stuff in high school, and you're like, I'm good to go. But the most important thing, this makes a nice sound. I'm going to do that again. The most important thing is to know fundamentals. And I've been testing students for 23 years now, if you count the University of Texas at Austin. I have found that often students have had a lot of theory, and yet when they come to be tested, they're very poor in fundamentals. And in fact, I'm just going to tell you a story about a student. This is long enough ago. I don't think I'm embarrassing anyone. A student came in, and I always ask them, have you had theory before? Yes, I had a semester of theory in high school. I said, that's great. How many sharps in A major? Hold on, I know this one. I said, no, you don't. You don't know it. And they're, no, I learned keys. I know those. You don't know them. Because to know scales, which is the first part of fundamentals, means to know them cold. So A major, 3 sharps, relative minor. F sharp minor. D major, 2 sharps, relative minor. B minor. These should just come out of your head. G flat major, 6 flats, 6 flats, relative minor, E flat minor. This should just be automatic to you. It's like multiplication tables. If you were a math major and they tested you for math, and they, for whatever reason, said at the beginning, what's 2 times 3? You wouldn't go, oh, let's see, I need a 3, 1, 2, 3. I know this. And then another 3, 1, 2, 3. 6, it's 6. No, you don't know it. You haven't memorized it. So these need to be cold, these scales. Make sure that you have scales cold. Scales are the basis of everything. If you can't do scales, you can't do the next step, which is intervals. If you can't do intervals, you can't do the next step, which is triads. If you can't do triads, you can't do 7th chords. If you can't do 7th chords, you can't get out of theory. If you can't get out of theory, you don't get a music degree. If you don't get a music degree, you don't get a job. If you don't get a job, you'll never attract a mate. So you can see how this works. From scales to a mate, it all depends on the scales. So learn the scales, okay? And make sure that they are automatic. I don't know if you've ever done like Duolingo, and you go through their program and they do the same thing over and over. It's like, yo necesito estudiar. I need to study. And then they give you something in English and it says, I need to study. Can you write this in Spanish? And you write out, yo necesito estudiar. And then you get to the next thing, and someone is talking to you, and they say, we will speak to you, and you will write out what you hear. Yo necesito estudiar. And you write that out. And then the next thing they do is they say, we're going to say something in English, and we want you to say it back to us in Spanish. I need to study. Yo necesito estudiar. So you do that 5,000 times, right? And then finally, like it just comes out of your mouth. Yo necesito estudiar. And you don't even have to think about it. Now, all of you who speak Spanish for real, please do not write in the comments that I mispronounced that. I'm sorry, I'm still learning, but I will get it. So, yo necesito estudiar. I need to study. That's what you need to do with the scale. So make sure those are just solid. Now, here's the good news. If you don't have theory in high school, or if your son or daughter doesn't have theory in high school, there are 1,000 theory websites. A very good one is called musictheory.net. That's very easy. Music theory, all one word, .net. You go there and they will teach you fundamentals. You can also go online. You go onto YouTube. There are like 100 YouTube videos about fundamentals. One I can recommend is by a former student of mine. I have to say that, so former students. Seth Monahan, who was teaching at the Eastman School of Music, but now teaches at Yale. So big brain. But he's very good at taking things apart, and he has a whole series of videos on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type in Seth Monahan Music Theory. You'll find them. They can teach you all of these things. And also musictheory.net has tons of drills. So from scales, the next thing you want to know are intervals. How do you figure out intervals? I'm not going to teach you that today. You can figure that out yourself. You can go to one of these websites. They will teach you intervals. But I guarantee you, you cannot figure out intervals without scales. From intervals, you will go on and learn triads. I'm going to play one. There's an out of tune C major chord. There's an out of tune G minor chord. Wasn't that exciting? I'm going to play more later, so you'll get to hear real music. Someone with perfect pitch can tell me what I just played here. All right, from triads, you'll move to seventh chords. So this is the order. If you don't have any theory, if you don't have a teacher who's teaching you theory, there's scales, intervals, triads, seventh chords. If you can get those under your belt, you'll probably get in, most likely, you'll get into that regular theory class, okay? After that, there's things like voice slating, things like that. I wouldn't worry so much about that, okay? So those are the four kind of written things that you need to do. But now, help us all, you also have to learn some ear training. And we discover that instrumentalists especially, they're not used to singing, and they don't want to sing. You have to sing. Singing is the royal road to musicianship. You will have to sing no matter where you go to music school. And just as a quick story, when I was an accompanist, I was an accompanist at Eastman where I went to school, virtually every teacher that I played for, I mean every studio where I accompanied, if a student could not play something well, the teacher would say to their student, I want you to sing it for me. So, and if you sing it, you sort of know how to phrase it. You know how it should be phrased. That was a cello piece by Beethoven, by the way. So, if the cellist comes in to play, boom, 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 oh, wait, the teacher would say. Sing it for me. Sing that line. Oh, I know now I have to lean into that note. So you really want to get your vocal cords moving. Now, you're all thinking, I know what you're thinking, coronavirus, we're not allowed to sing. Bad news for you. We're still going to have people sing online so that they're separate, right? So that they're not, so they're socially distanced. It's all online. You're still going to have to sing if you're starting school in the fall. So how do you get yourself started? First thing you want to do is make sure you can match a pitch. If you have a piano, you can play any note. Can I sing that? Yes, I can. Yay! I'm a music theory major, so... Well, I wasn't a music theory major, I was actually piano major. Alright, so can I match pitches? If you don't have a piano, you can just pick up your instrument, play a note, and sing it back. Make a more pretty sound than I just did. And if you don't have your instrument around, I don't know why, your instrument was left somewhere, and now we're in the middle of coronavirus hell, and you can't get to your instrument. You can download a keyboard, an electronic keyboard. You can download one on your phone. There are lots of apps for this, and, just start to match pitches. I would match pitches on just neutral syllable, loo, because every school has a different system of singing. You don't want to learn one system and then go to school and they say, we don't use that system, we're using this system. I learned this system for nothing. So, loo, 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 that's what we call a neutral pitch. If you use that neutral or syllable, use that neutral syllable, loo, 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 you're fine. After you can match pitches, and you can do this with practice on your own. You can learn how to do this. I would try playing patterns. Loo, loo, loo. Can I sing back a small pattern? Loo, loo, loo. And try to really, that time I kind of scooped into a note. Try to really, loo. Try to really get into the center of the note so that I'm not going, loo. That's not good. You want to be right in the center of the note, okay? So after being able to match pitches, being able to echo little patterns, you might start to learn intervals orally because you'll have to do this as part of your exam. And a good way to do that, I'm going to show you an exercise I use with people that have to learn this. Start with a C and just go up the scale. So I'm going to just go to the next note. Lu, lu. That's a major second. Now I'm going to go up to the next note. Lu, lu. That's a major third. Lu, lu. It's a perfect fourth. Lu, lu. Perfect fifth. Lu, lu. Major sixth. Lu, lu. Major seventh. Lu, lu. Perfect octave. And if you have trouble finding those notes, this is they've shown that this is true. If you move your arm up and down, I'm not making this up. I'm not like trying to be the waterbender or something. In Avatar, if you move your arm up and down as you go, lu, 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 they find that you actually can find those pitches more easily. So from these, lu, lu, major second, lu, lu, major third, you can learn the intervals. And you can test yourself on one of these websites that I told you about. So musictheory.net, again, they will play you intervals. And at first, you might want to, because you're at home, you might just want to sing it yourself. Lu, 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 lu. Perfect fourth. All right. And you push that little perfect fourth button and it says, you got it. Or you push the perfect fifth and it's like, nah, you got it wrong. So with enough practice, you'll learn to be able to identify intervals, which is something you'll have to do during this test. From there, you go to triads. It's only 4. Lu, 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 major. Lu, 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 minor. Lu, 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 diminished. Lu, lu, lu. And notice I'm singing back what I'm hearing first. This will train your ear. And when you hear a triad, when you first start, lu, 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 try to sing it back first. Once you sing it back, and you can do this at home. They don't know that you're singing. Go far away so your parents don't hear you. You know, you're embarrassed. I'm going to go in my basement and do this, right? So go somewhere far away. The dog doesn't hear you. The cat doesn't hear you. You know, go somewhere if you're embarrassed. Go somewhere where no one will hear you. And you just sing those triads. Eventually, what happens, those triads get stuck in your head so that when we test you and I play a chord and say, what kind is this? You say, that's minor. And get it so that you can do it right away. You can test that stuff online, just like you can test the written things online. That can all be done online, and you can do it 1,000 times. Just like Duolingo, you could just go through it 1,000 times with your Necesito estudiar, and I'm hearing 1,000 perfect fifths, I'm hearing 1,000 triads. If you can do everything that I've just said, if you can do the written, those 4 parts of the fundamentals, the scales, the intervals, the triads, and the 7 chords. If you can identify those, if you can write them out, all of which you can learn online and test yourself on. If you can hear intervals and identify them, if you can hear triads and identify them, you'll be fine. Now there's one last thing that they will probably ask you to do. If you're not good at it, it probably won't kill you, but it also won't kill you to get good at it. And that thing is what we call dictation. The dreaded dictation. I hated it. You hate it. I don't know why everyone hates it, but everyone hates it. Now, there is a good use for dictation, but I'm not going to go into that right now because that will get us off track. Dictation is when you hear a melody, right? And then you have to write it out. They generally tell you what the first pitch is. So that was a G. And then they generally tell you, and you know, G major, 1 sharp, it's relative minor, E minor, make sure that that's automatic, right? So we're in G, they'll tell you if you're in 2, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4, they usually tell you that. But a good way, I'll just tell you a good way to start with dictation, sing it back. Lu, lu, oh, I didn't get right on the pitch, did I? Lu, 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 lu. And if you can sing it back, you'll probably be able to at least figure out the intervals. Lu, lu, lu. Oh, that was a triad. Right, so I know it's a triad because I know my triads. Lu, 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 lu. All of that is scale-like, right? So I say, oh, that's all scale-like. So Again, singing is the royal road to musicianship. If you are an instrumentalist and you're not used to singing, which many instrumentalists aren't, they're like, I don't sing, I'm not a singer, that's for other people to do. No, you have to become a singer. Under normal circumstances, I would say that you should join a choir, or you should, sing in the choir in your synagogue or in your church. But we're not in normal circumstances. But you can still sing at home. Okay, so make sure you do all that. Now, what will happen is you'll be tested on both of those things. And I have one more piece of advice before I go to part 2 of this demonstration, which is where I'm actually going to play the piano. Right? So you are going to hear me play, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how even the smallest bit of theory can help you figure things out as a performer. Theory helps composers, of course. It helps music therapists. They need to know how to improvise, so you learn how to improvise. It helps performers, of course. Music ed people, of course, need to know theory, and they need all these musicianship skills. So there's hardly a person I can think of, unless maybe you're getting a Bachelor of Arts degree and you don't intend ever to go on stage or teach anyone anything about music. I can't imagine who that person is who gets a music degree that doesn't use music in some way, but you will need this. It will come in handy. Okay, so I got off track, as I often do, because, I'm me. So I always say, you will be tested on these things. Now, I want to give you a bit of advice on a situation that happens all the time. Sometimes we get students who test just in the middle. They're not, by in the middle, we can put them into the first level of theory, but they might be good enough to go to theory 2, right? They might be able to skip a semester. And for some reason, every student I test who is in the middle, they say, oh, put me in theory 2. That is a bad idea, and I'm going to tell you why. Now, sometimes I let students do it. I just say, you know what, go to theory 2, and if it's not good, well, you're screwed. I don't say you're screwed. I'm sorry. I just did that live. It'll be there forever. I say you could get in trouble. All right. Why do I tell people not to move ahead? Why do I tell them to stay in theory 1 instead of moving ahead if they're kind of right on the border? I think that students and even parents forget that the freshman year, that first semester, is among the most stressful moments in your life. You're all looking forward to going to school, if you get to go to school this semester, but most semesters you're going to school, meeting new friends, learning about music, and you're like, yeah, this is great. But then you forget that you're going to have to learn other things, like how to live with people. Oh, I've got 3 roommates that I can't stand, right? You have to learn things like, what am I going to eat, all right? Now, of course, they provide food for you in the dorms. But I'll just tell you very quickly, I used to, faculty members at Temple, there was a dorm near where Professor Hall, where I teach, and I used to go there for lunch. And I would, because it was cheap, it's like $3 or something, all you can eat. And I would see students coming in, they clearly had just, they just rolled out of bed, and even though it was noon, they were having breakfast, and they've got 3 bowls of Captain Crunch and 3 scoops of ice cream. And I'm like, wow, kid, you're in for a fall in an hour. Have fun with that sugar high when it crashes, right? So you think, oh my God, I'm free, I can do whatever I want, and you start experimenting, and all these things start happening to you. Oh my God, I have to eat fruit, I have to eat fruit, yes. Oh, veggies, right, I have to eat veggies. To figure out that stuff. And then the worst, laundry. Don't be like me, right? So I was the kid who was like, oh my God, I haven't done laundry in 3 weeks. There's got to be something in my laundry bag that doesn't smell too badly. My wife will tell you. Maybe my wife doesn't remember. All right, so we went to school together. So you pull out the shirt, and okay, this doesn't smell too badly. And you put it on, you get into school, and everyone's like, Klein, get away. Don't you take a shower? So all of these things are stressful. And you don't want a stressful theory class on top of that. Stay in the theory 1 class. So it's easy. So what? So you can roll along for a while, get yourself comfortable. You also get to meet people who are in your same semester. You make friends that are in your same semester and not sophomores or, God forbid, juniors who have failed and keep taking the course over and over. So my advice is if you can get into that normal theory class and they say to you, you might fit into theory 2. No, I want to do theory 1 because I want to learn how to do laundry. Those are my words of wisdom. All right, we're going to switch gears. Switch. And I'm going to show you, you don't need to know much theory, but even a little theory can help a performer. And since I started as a performer, I have 2 performance degrees in piano. Hard to believe. After you hear me play, you'll be like, oh my God, no wonder he never went on. I'm going to show you how you can use just a little theory to get yourself thinking about music in a slightly different way. All right. So the first piece I'm going to play is by Clara Schumann. She was born Clara Wieck. She was one of the great virtuosos of the 19th century. Married Robert Schumann, the famous composer. That's why it's Clara Schumann. And this is a little prelude. In fact, it's called Simple Prelude for Students. It sounds like a chorale. I think there are 15 chords. Those of you out there who are theorists, who are friends of mine and are watching this and are aghast at what I'm telling people, I will tell you something else that will make you aghast. In my theory class now, this is the first piece that I do with them in the very first week. And you're going to hear, don't worry if you don't know what these words are, secondary dominance, secondary diminished 7 chords, modal mixture. And I know all the theorists are probably, oh my God, you're an idiot. Why do you do this for these kids? You have to play something simple. No, you have to play real music. So I play this piece with them, and I ask them to do something that I'm going to ask you to do, although I won't be looking at the comments to see if you really do it. I want you to think about which chords stuck out to you as special. Or as one kid said to me the last time I taught this, that was a spicy chord. All right, so I want you to find the spicy chords. Which ones stick out? I don't mean stick out in a bad way. I mean which ones sound special to you. That's all you need to do. It's a short prelude. I'll play it twice. Once I'm going to play it kind of amusically. So. I would never play it that way for real if I had to play this short piece in public. It was way too straight, way too flat going through. I mean, flat as in level, right? And I'm sorry for the piano. One of the things about the coronavirus is you can't get a piano tuner in to tune your piano. And so this piano is now really hurts my ears. I'm going to play it again, slightly more musically, and maybe if there are chords that you think to yourself, wow, that sounded cool, just remember them. There are 15 chords, so you could even write down, oh, chord number 8, chord number 7, or maybe none of them sound special. And I even remember, if you've written these down, which numbers, which chord, the first student that, the last time I taught this, the first student who shouted out, oh, that chord, it was this one. That one right there. She was like, wow. And in fact, she was the spicy chord person. That chord is spicy. Let's play it again. The students always find the same 4 chords. I'm going to tell you what they are. This one, that one, that one, and this one. Now, even if students only know scales, they can figure out, if you ask them, what is in common with all of these chords? And they will say they have an accidental. It means they're chromatic. These are the chords that stand out to us. And that means that as a performer, they probably will stand out to me even if I have never thought of theory since I left the theory class. And believe me, I know a lot of theorists, a lot of performers who never think of theory ever. They think they're not thinking of theory, but they really are. Because on just going to tell you this now. Remember, to theorize is to look on with wonder. So we are looking on this piece with wonder. The two kinds of wonder, the kind of awe, like, oh my God, this is so wonderful. And the kind of wonder, like, how does this work wonderful? So I get to this first kind of special chord. What am I going to do with this chord? So I want to do something with it. I might go in loudly. And then back off. That would be the kind of common thing to do. But then if I do it for all of these chords, now we're getting seasick. So I can't do the same thing for all of them, right? So maybe I want to do what my piano teacher called a negative inflection, which is where you suddenly get to that chord and you back off. It makes people listen. Right? And it took a little time there too. Now the next one, this is such a special progression for the theorists among you, is deceptive resolution of a secondary dominant. You can use that at a party. Just remember, deceptive resolution of a secondary dominant. It doesn't even have to be one if you're listening to music. No one will know. Right? So here's a secondary dominant, and there's a kind of magical flavor to this. So I want to bring that out too in some way. Now, why did this student like the chord that she liked? Well, I don't really know. But what I can tell you is things are getting dark. A minor chord, and now a diminished chord. So this is pretty dark, and suddenly light. So we're getting darker, and when I get to that last dark chord, before I hit the light chord, I want to take time. So we have diminished chord, diminished seventh chord. It's pretty anxious. Minor chord, dark. I'm going to wait on this chord a little bit so that when I get here, it sounds really bright. Okay, it has this like glow to it. And what is very clever about this, what Clara Schumann did. Now I call her Clara. You know, we're all friends. The first part is rather vanilla. These are all just kind of vanilla. And then from there on in, we get these chromatic chords. All right, so just knowing a scale and knowing that there are notes out of the scale teaches me what I want to focus on. I want to focus on those notes that are out of the scale, and it gives me things to experiment with. There's no one right way to play it, but I kind of decided that the piece is about kind of getting darker and then this bright light near the end. And it gives me something to aim for when I'm playing it, when I'm performing it, so that I don't get the flat version. So what, right? So that's the first one. I don't want to go too long. I know these often only go a half an hour. I planned 3 of these. Maybe if John or Marge will text Tammy and say, shut up already, I will. But I do want to play one other piece and tell you how theory can help you, or even the fundamentals can help you. I thought that since we're in the middle of this basically 2 pandemics, the first being the corona or virus, or the COVID-19, where so many people have died, and the second being this slaughter of people of color for no other reason that they're people of color, and leading to the Black Lives Movement, so kind of in honor of the Black Lives Movement. I thought I would play Nimrod by Edward Elgar. So Edward Elgar, this piece Nimrod is part of a greater piece, if you're not a musician, called the Enigma Variations. You don't need to know that. But this particular piece, Nimrod, has become associated with remembrance. And in fact, in Canada and in the UK, it's actually played at what they call Remembrance Day, which is sort of like our Memorial Day or our Veterans Day. And says, keep going. Oh my God, you guys are in trouble because I'm going to keep going. All right, so I thought it would be nice to play Nimrod all the way through. This is originally for orchestra. I encourage you to go listen to a performance of it. Since we don't have live music right now, you might go to YouTube and hear an orchestral version of it. I remember, for example, that when after the Challenger disaster or tragedy in the late 1980s, the first thing that the orchestra played at the next concert was Nimrod all by itself. So I'm going to play this for you, and then we're going to talk a little bit about just how simple things, singing and listening, simple theory, can help us kind of shape what the piece is about or understand what the piece is about. I need to take a breath. I talk too much. My dog will tell you that. She often comes in here. I wish she would. And it's like, stop it. Here we go. I forgot something. Nothing is sexier. Nothing. And the glasses you need when you're old to play music. And I knew the Klein pretty well. Now, doesn't this make it better? Can't you see people coming and saying, oh my God, what a sexy theorist? So I need to change glasses so I can see the tiny, tiny little print. Sorry, moment of silence. Actually, I almost don't want to talk after I play that piece. Getting a little choked up. The magic glasses will fix it. All right, just singing this piece gives you an idea of what it's about. And this is why singing is so important. So this, and this is all centered around a fairly narrow ambitus or range. Now the music makes a leap, as if striving for something, as if going for something hopeful. Which I can barely reach. So there's like a difficulty. I have to raise my stature to get to that note. And then we have these difficult leaps. Which is sort of like falling. Like I've risen to a stage and now I've fallen. I've risen to a stage and now I've fallen. And so already if I sing through this, I have this feeling, especially with these images, of a kind of falling from grace, or like a falling from something I want. So the piece seems to be about striving and falling. And what happens when we fall? We get back up, right? So the piece, it actually goes a little higher. It keeps trying to get higher and higher. But when that first big phrase all finishes, we're right back where we started. And so the piece has sort of tried to accomplish something, and it has fallen right to where it began. Right? This is common in stories. It's common in music, that we come back to where we started. Well, we need to get back on the horse, but we need some knowledge. We need something that will help us. And when I play this second phrase, I notice something, which I'll tell you in a second. I notice that the bass now is deeper. It's as if someone has come to support us, or something has come to support us. Because first we had, now we have, now watch where the piece goes this time. And if I were singing it, in fact, I'll do that. Which we hit before. And even me trying to sing it as ugly as it sounds, I can tell just by singing, oh, we've reached a really high point. So this second time through, there is more success. It's like I have found support. And now I can reach this point of this high point that I'm trying for. So we have this. And then we fall again. This time the fall is much more gradual. And just so that we can get through this, get through the piece, it'll take me forever to get through the whole thing. We start the piece kind of all over. And this time the bass, it's going to help us out. It's going to build up momentum. And I can notice all of this stuff with very little theory. You don't need a lot of theory to help you like shape a performance. So when we come around again to this theme, I'm going to start right before it, you'll notice the bass comes in to try to help once again. time, we have these huge chords. All right, so we have more texture, we have more notes, thicker texture, and this gives us senses of kind of accomplishment. I'm going to go to the end, and the music does something that some students, when I teach this, read as one way, and the other students as another way. The music in the piano version goes very high, almost as far up on the piano as you can go, all the way up to the, as if we've really hit the top, what we've been striving for. But then it all falls down, and we get this same phrase over and over, as if I'm going to try again, I'm going to try again, I'm going to try again. But when we get to the end of that trying again, we get to a chord, a special harmony. Major from minor, I go, oh, minor. Minor tends to be tragic. So I've tried again and again, and all I've hit is this tragic chord, this note of tragedy, which is just at the end of the piece. Almost as if I've almost made it, but I have fallen once again. So. The tune again, but it softens, almost as if to say, this is as far as I can get. I can't get where I wanted to go. It's such a solemn piece, and I think it aptly represents the fallen, those who have fallen. So, as you can tell, I get kind of choked up talking about it. All right, it is 12:48. I had another piece, but I have gone on too long. So I would like to thank you for your attention. Again, I'm just a theorist, so if you give money for a theorist, that's great. But please, if you're hearing these concerts that are given, please donate if you have. I know it's a hard time for everybody, but it's particularly hard for musicians who are who now have basically no work. So someone is coming down. Hold it. Oh, right, we need to show you somebody. Before I say goodbye, there's someone who wants to say hello to you, and that is my dog. But she's very confused. She does not like attention. It's okay. You can let her go. And that's my daughter.
We're not matching on purpose.
We're not matching on purpose. We just both happen to. I think this is important that you see our dog. Something hopeful. There she is. Isn't she pretty? So she often, this tells you how well I play the piano, and then I'll sign off. She often comes in and paws me while I'm playing the piano, as if to say, please stop that thing you're doing. So I hope this has been helpful. I know it stays online forever, which means I'm never going to watch it because it's just going to embarrass me. I'm going to do something very bad. I teach at Temple University. If you have questions, find my email on Temple University. You can find it, Michael Klein, Klein, German spelling. And I'm happy to answer them if you have questions about, what should my kid do? Okay? So I'm signing off now. Thank you very much for your attention. Hope you enjoyed it.